All right, good morning, traders. Today is it's April 10th, 2026. My name, Coach Carignan, lead instructor here at the BYOB Trading Room. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody out there, podcast land, digital land, cyberland. Thank you for following my content, subscribing to my content, liking my content, leaving kind words on my content. Appreciate that. Love that. Thank you so much. Special shout out Bob Jordan, John Jordan, Kathy, Sarah, Roasted, Ed Carter, Rick Sadler, everybody that shares the BYOB content, helping get the good word out there to the World Wide Web. Want to do nothing more than help the people. All right, let's take a look at the markets this from yesterday, and then we'll look at them for today. My SPY pivot this morning, 677.10, above it, bullish, below it, bearish. All of the Fab 5 except for FNGU made higher highs and higher lows, closing over bullish traps over their 17 EMAs. FNGU made a lower high and a lower low, closing over a bullish trap over the 17. SPY closed 2-hour uptrend and 10-minute bullish consolidation. Gold higher high, higher low, closing over a bullish trap and over the 17 EMA. Silver made an inside day. That's a lower high and a higher low, closing over a bullish trap and over the 17. USO, higher low, higher high, closing under a bullish trap but over the 17. UNG made a lower high, lower low, no surprise there, closing under a bearish trap under the 17 EMA. US dollar index still in a daily uptrend, closed near 98.87. SPY Max Pain, I don't know about that, it says 671, but it may change with a put to call ratio of about 2.1 puts for each call. That expires today at 4:15. Index options expire at 4:15. Security options expire at 4. If this is your first time seeing this, these are all in daily uptrends over the 17. These are all in daily downtrends under the 17. If it's got a star next to it over here in the bulls column, it means it's probably building out a bull flag. I call it a launch pad from which to launch higher. If it's got a little dash, it means it already broke out. All right. If it's got a little star next to it over here, it's building out a bear flag from which to dive lower, or I call it a platform for which to dive lower. If it's got a little dash, it means it already broke down and it already started its next leg lower. All right, let's take a look at the markets this morning. All right, let's start with this one right here, excuse me. All right, so on the 10-minute chart, you can see there's not enough space in there for me to really call it an uptrend, but you can see it's consolidating up top. So I call it 10-minute bullish consolidation into the closing hour yesterday. On the 2-hour chart, you got daylight between the 3 and the 8 EMA. They're both rising. You got a 2-hour uptrend coming into the close yesterday. For the daily candle, higher low, higher high, closing over the bullish trap. See the 3 on top of the 8, over a bullish trap and over the hooking 17. See the 17 goes from red dots and then it starts to flatten out and now begins to rise. See here with the green dots. So over the hooking 17 EMA right there. Okay, if we put the quad lines on here, I'm going to zoom way out. All right, all the way back to April. You can see this is the origin of our rally. We're up, we're over to the right. Have we made a higher high yet? No, we have not. So we're still in a downtrend. I'm going to call it a dysfunctional downtrend because they're not moving down. They're actually melting up or moving to the right. Okay, so SPY up in quadrant 4, the middle of quadrant 4, that's bullish. All right, but we're still in that dysfunctional downtrend. Right now, price closed over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's the pink line there. We may get a pullback to the pink line sometime today. That's about 673.45. We'll see what happens, all right? I'd be surprised if they put in another green candle like they did yesterday. I really would. We'll see what happens, all right? So there's SPY on the daily chart. We're bullish, all right? But like I said, dysfunctional downtrend, and that we are definitely melting up, but we just haven't made a higher high yet. On the weekly chart, we're still in a downtrend. We have not made a higher high, all right? And the last action that was performed was down here. We made a lower low. Since then, after making the lower low, you can see price has been melting up, all right? We're still bullish on the weekly chart. Again, it's just like the daily chart. It's got that dysfunctional downtrend. That's SPY on the weekly chart. On the monthly chart, we're still bullish and in an uptrend. See all the green dots? Okay, so we have not made any lower lows, so we're still in an uptrend on the monthly chart. Let's take a look at QQQ. We'll start with the 10-minute chart. Okay, QQQ a little bit stronger than SPY coming into the close. Not by much. You could easily call this bullish consolidation, or you could call it 10-minute uptrend. I see some daylight between the 3 and the 8 coming into the close on the 10-minute chart. So 10-minute uptrend coming into the close on QQQ. 2-hour uptrend. You can see daylight between the 3 and the 8 EMA. Both of them are rising up out of the ashes there. Price action, you can see price action is plotting up on top of the 3 EMA. All right, and you got nothing touching the 8. So there's 2-hour uptrend coming into the close yesterday on the daily candle. Higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish trap, over the hooking 17, over the all-time high anchored VWAP in the middle of quadrant 4. All right, so that's bullish, and we have a high here, and they made higher highs. So QQQ in an uptrend and bullish up here in quadrant 4. Let's take a look at FNGU. FNGU, lower high, lower low, closing over the bullish trap, over the hooking 17 EMA, in the middle of, I'm going to call it quadrant 2. So that's neutral. All right, if it's not in the lower third, it's not in the upper third. For me, it's neutral in here. Have they made a higher high? No, not yet. So they are in, again, another one that's in that dysfunctional downtrend. If they take out this high right over here with those 2 red candles, that would be up over the midpoint. All right, they'd have themselves an uptrend. They wouldn't be bullish. They'd definitely be acting bullish. It'd be nice to see them on the bullish side of the 50-yard line or the midcourt or the midfield right up here. But they still got quite a bit more work to do, all right? But still closed under the all-time high anchored VWAP. So neutral in a dysfunctional downtrend at this time for FNGU. Excuse me. Let's take a look at IWM. IWM's a higher low, a higher high. We close over a bullish trap. We close over the all-time high anchored VWAP. We have a high here. We made a higher high. So we're in an uptrend on IWM. We're in the middle of quadrant 4. That's bullish. And we're over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Bullish and in an uptrend, IWM. Let's take a look at Diamond Dow. Higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish trap, over the hooking 17. No higher high made yet on, no higher high made up yet on Diamond Dow. So they're in one of those, just like the others, dysfunctional downtrend, but bullish up here. I'm going to call it in the middle of quadrant 4. That's for Diamond Dow. Let's take a look at precious metals. We'll start with silver. Silver's still neutral, not in the upper third, not in the lower third. Silver's candle yesterday is an inside day. It's a higher low, but a lower high. We closed over a bullish trap. We closed over the flat 17. We closed under the all-time high anchored VWAP. We're on the bullish side of neutrality. There's the 50-yard line. We've been kind of hovering above it. All right, silver, or building a base above it. Silver on the daily chart, that's neutral. All right, and in an uptrend because there's a high right there, and they made a higher high, not yesterday, but 2 days ago. Okay, so neutral and in an uptrend for silver. See if they get any follow through on that today. Gold. Gold is higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish trap, over the flat 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP, bottom of quadrant 4. They got a high there. I don't know if they made a higher high. Let's see what we got. High 440.19, high 440. So they're in an uptrend, and they're bullish at the bottom of quadrant 4 right there for gold. All right, let's take a look at UNG. This is going to be easy. UNG, lower high, lower low. No surprise there. Closing underneath a bearish trap, closing underneath the falling 17, closing underneath the 12-month high anchored VWAP, closing in the, well, near the bottom of quadrant 1. That's going to be bearish. All right, and we make it a low over here. You can see clearly the crosshairs are underneath that, making a lower low. So obviously in a downtrend and bearish on UNG. This is the all-time low. I don't know if they're going to run back there and retest it. We'll find out soon. There's UNG. Let's take a look at USO. USO drills out a higher high and a higher low. We closed under a bullish trap. We closed over the rising 17. We're in the middle, or excuse me, we're in the bottom of quadrant 4. We're still bullish, bottom of quadrant 4, and we're still in an uptrend because we have not made any lower lows on USO. All right, let's take a look at technicals. Let's move over here. And for technicals, T2101, it's a 15-minute chart of the breadth or participation. Participation increasing as the market's moving up. That is a bullish sign. I'll take it. I like it. T2122, we spent the day meandering between the top of the buyer's chop zone, the buy zone, and the overbought zone. That's bullish. I'll take it. I like the higher low right there. Also bullish. That's T2122, 4-week new high, new low ratio. T2123, price action. There's a high from the previous day. We made higher highs. That's an uptrend. That's where I want to be, on the top side of the 200 SMA. If I'm going to be a bull, I like it. Another bullish sign right there. Plus, we didn't fill the gap. Another bullish sign. T2123 15-minute chart. Let's go take a look at all-time. Well, let's put the quad lines in here just for a second. Okay, you can see that's the all-time high. That's the pullback low. We're still in the lower third. So we're still bearish, but we're in a 15-minute uptrend right there on 15-minute chart of T2123. 3-bar chart. I'll pan way out. Here's the origin of our rally back here in April. We run up. We make a new all-time high for 2025. Actually, for a new all-time high made in 2025. Have a pullback, higher low, rip, and make another new all-time high. This one happens to be in 2026. We're up here in quadrant 4, so we're still bullish. We're underneath the rising 200 SMA. Not where you want to be if you're a bull, all right? Price action. Although this is not where I want to be, we're doing the right stuff. We're melting back up toward that rising 200 SMA. So that's a bullish sign right there. Have we made a higher high? No, we have not. So we're in a downtrend. All right, but since this downtrend down here, we haven't not recently, we haven't made a higher high, but recently we're moving to the right or melting up. That's T2123 3-bar chart. So dysfunctional downtrend currently on T2123 3-bar chart, but still bullish up here in quadrant 4. All right, let's take a look at FNGU on 15. And mute that. Okay, FNGU, we got a big gap up, and we held the higher ground. That's a bullish sign. Okay, FNGU for yesterday's price action. There's a high. We made a lower low. After making the lower low, we have a high right here. We made a higher high. So we leave off, not in a downtrend, but in an uptrend, because you can see we made a high there, and you can see the crosshairs pass over with daylight between the top of that bar and the crosshairs. So you got some daylight. So another higher high right here. So one higher high there, and yet again another higher high following that up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's big news right there for FNGU. Maybe it's turning around. I'm also looking at an inverse head and shoulders. We'll see what happens, all right, if they want to play this out. But there's FNGU on the 15-minute chart. Uptrend above the hooking 200 SMA. That's where you want to be if you're a bull. It's better to be on the other side of the all-time high anchored VWAP. We got one candle closing up there. I'll take it. All right. And right now, currently, I'll put the quad lines in here. Okay, you can see we're neutral. We're not in the lower third anymore. We're still not in the upper third. All right. We're neutral, but in an uptrend right now. Okay, so we're in that uptrend because we're making higher lows and higher highs on the 15-minute chart. The daily chart, I don't think is in an uptrend yet, okay? But the 15-minute chart is making, you can see a high here, a high here, a high here. Over the 17, we're making higher highs, so we're in an uptrend currently on FNGU 15-minute chart. All right, let's take a look at a few game plans and see what we can, you know what, let's just go ahead and knock out the economic package, and then we'll come back to the charts and see what's happening in the pre-market. All right, SPY Max Pain. Let me refresh this, make sure it hasn't changed. Okay, SPY Max Pain still 671. Put to call ratio still 2.1 puts for each call. We'll see what happens there if we're going to visit the Max Pain number. Earnings. Earnings are just familiar names, but nothing here that's going to be moving the markets. All right, we trade the indexes most all the time, so there's nothing here that's going to report that's going to manipulate or influence the markets a great deal, enough to really matter. All right, so there's the earnings report. On the economic calendar, we have some fresh numbers coming out for CPI at 8:30. There'll be some volatility wrapped up in that. Now, I don't know whether we're going to go higher or lower, but kind of doesn't matter what the game plan is till we see what shakes out from the CPI. All right, so consumer sentiment is going to report at 10:30. Remember, CPI is going to report at 8:30. Let me just see GDP yesterday, even though it was a delayed report, not so good. All right, really not so good. Jobless claims were good, but GDP not so good right there. All right, factory orders, a delayed report that's going to come out at 10. Not a big market mover. Rig count at 1 o'clock, and that's it. All right, so all eyes on the CPI coming out in about, you can see down here, in about 10 minutes. All right, so we'll see what happens. I could probably go over the game plan right now. maybe by then we will have a CPI report and see what the market wants to shake around. All right, let's take a look over here. We'll start the game plans on there. Okay, let's start off with SPY. And we hit the 15-minute. Okay, so here's the SPY game plan. We have a green erases red entry above 681.20. We have a pivot, 677.10. Above it bullish, below it bearish for me. Red erases green underneath 672.40. So we may come all the way back and visit the bottom of this channel right here. That would be normal for them to come all the way back and just test the bottom of the channel one more time before then again coming back up and test the top. We'll see what happens. That would be normal price action to see price come back to here. That would not be bearish. It would still be bullish. All right. But as long as this holds right here, as long as we don't dip down into this, the gap, all right, the open gap, we should be good. All right. So there's SPY on the game plan there. I like options. All right. I like the Friday options on the multiple of 5. Today, because today's Friday, just happens to set up as 7 DTE and 14 DTE. I like the options on the multiple of 5 because they got more open interest. All right. I like a lot of liquidity. I want to be able to get in. I want to be able to get out. I want to be able to buy enough or sell enough that I can move with liquidity. I want to move like water. I want to be able to move, all right, with the ups and downs of the market. So I like the multiples of 5. They tend to have more liquidity on them. I like strikes at the money. Now, I used to like out of the money, but recently you can see sometimes you only get a $5 day. That would be the range from the highs to the lows. And you're paying for volatility, and volatility is priced in at close to $10 and $12 in the volatility in the options. So you're paying for 12, but you're only getting 5. For that reason, at this time, I'm choosing the at the money. I kind of want that penny for penny performance, or as close to it as I can get when it comes to options. That way I can capture more profits to overcome all of the IV that I'm paying, the implied volatility that I'm paying for in my options. I trade 10-minute uptrends over VWAP, 10-minute downtrends under VWAP. If a 10-minute uptrend were to manifest down here, long before the green erases red entry, I'm not opposed to trading it. I just like to see it break the bullish 10-minute rubber band candle. Same with the downtrend. If a downtrend happens to manifest up here today, all right, and they do decide to pull back to the red line down here, I'm not opposed to trading a downtrend. I just like to see it break a bearish 10-minute rubber band candle so I can trade it down to this area. It'll probably be a bounce around the pivot area right there, 677.10. All right, so there's 15-minute chart on SPY. Let's take a look at QQQ. All right, we got green erases red over 610.10. We're already over that. Pivot, 606.50. Above it, bullish. Below it, bearish. Okay, red erases green underneath 602.25. Same thing applies for this. I'm expecting, it would be normal, all right, for price to pull back to the red line and bounce. That would be normal. All right, so if it does happen, all right, it'd also be normal for it to race up here and consolidate above all of this consolidation, just as it has done yesterday. See the consolidation over the prior consolidation? That's a bullish environment. I think the same thing happened in SPY. Yes, you can see bullish consolidation over prior consolidation. That's a bullish environment. Very well could get to 683 sometime today. We'll see what happens. Okay, so there's SPY game plan. All right, this is Friday, options expiration Friday. Anything could happen. All right, I suspect like most Fridays, the market makers or the market movers or the dealers like to do this. They like to push it to one place and then pin it there. All right, so we'll see what happens. All right, and then there's times they like to bring it down and then bring it back up. All right, so we'll see what happens, but don't be surprised if after 1 o'clock they pin it to a number and you don't get much price action after 1 o'clock. Now, what did we trade yesterday? Let's see if I can pull up yesterday's while we're waiting for CPI to come out. See if I can pull up yesterday's plan because I know it worked out. So here's yesterday's plan. Okay, so SPY produced a bull flag, just as we suspected. All right, remember the day before we gapped all the way up here. What did we expect? We expected them to put in the bottom of the bull flag, and they did. And then we were going to trade it back up to the highs, and that's what we did. We traded it from here up to there. Now notice not much distance between those 10-minute candles. Let's start 10-minute candles, all right? Not much air between the VWAP and the 10-minute candles. So you notice they get up above, they don't go far. They get down below, they don't go far. So they put in the bottom of the bear flag. That's what I'm going to call it on not Thursday, but Wednesday. Now, yesterday we had consolidation over prior consolidation. All right, in the morning hours. All right, SPY produced the beginning of a bull flag, which we had suspected. It did over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That happened on Wednesdays. So Thursday, that would be yesterday. Wait and trade the 10-minute breakout of yesterday's range. So that was to trade, see the range between the red line and the gold line. All right, that would be yesterday's range. We were looking for a breakout right here to trade on up higher or lower, either a breakdown or a breakout. So we had a little 10-minute uptrend. You can see it right there on the 10-minute chart. You got the 3 and the sticks riding up over the 8 EMA, okay? Now, I tell this to traders all the time. That right there is the picture of money. Anytime you see, let's see if I can find that picture of money. I may have it here. Here's one. I'm going to come up here and share it. Okay, picture of money. Okay, you see how the 10-minute uptrend, see the 3 is pointed up, the 8 is pointed up, and the VWAP is melting up. All right? You see the 8 EMA and the VWAP, the relationship between the 8 EMA and the VWAP. All right? That's the picture of money. Okay, you can see right there the mouth or the distance between the two of them opens wider and wider and wider as the day goes on. Okay, you got the PPO. If you're looking for confirmation, and the PPO's up over 0.06 or 0.06 or greater. I like it better than 0.06. Okay, that gives you the availability to buy some options and ride them up to the peak of that 3 EMA right up there. As soon as it flattens out, that's the time to get out. Okay, as soon as it flattens out. Remember, I like to sell my options into strength. Okay, so there's strength. You're selling them into strength. You see it flatten out, you get out. Okay, that's it. This right here, that's the picture of money. See the relationship between the 8 EMA and the VWAP. The mouth opens wider and wider and wider. Okay, that right there is a picture. If you want to snap a photo, do it. All right, but I'm going to take it down right now. You can just rewind the video. But anyway, so that was our plan yesterday. That worked out nicely, and we made a couple daily goals yesterday, trading the guidance for that. Now, what am I expecting today? I am kind of expecting a pullback. Although we do have consolidation over prior consolidation, that's a bullish environment. So we very well may ink out 683 today. All right, and they may just pin it there all day because that's what they like to do. So I won't be surprised if they drive it up to 683. All right, 683.50, and just pin it there all day long. All right, we'll see what happens. Right now, looks like CPI came out. I don't have it available to me right now, but it looks like in the market hours, the morning market hours, right here. All right, we're getting a push. All right, so we'll find out right now whether this is going to be a failed breakout. If they give it some follow through. Right now, it's not looking so good, and it would be normal for price to pull back to the red line back here and bounce right there. It would be normal for price to bounce once it gets down here. All right, we'll see what happens. Right now, if it's a failed breakout, I want to look for a 10-minute downtrend and trade it down to 672.40. All right, if it's a failed breakout, I'll wait for a 10-minute downtrend, and that would be just the opposite of, where is it? Back here, okay? It's going to look like the opposite of the picture of money here. Okay, the picture of money here was right here with the ADMA was rising up over. It'll be the same thing, but underneath the VWAP, the distance between the VWAP and the falling 8 EMA will get wider and wider and wider, and we'll look for a PPO that's lower than negative 0.06, okay, on the PPO on the 10-minute chart. All right, so we'll see what happens. All right, it's too early to tell right now. They're just getting whippy with it. That's all they're doing. It's moving it around. All right. So I'll see you guys in about 45 minutes. We'll open up the markets and trade them live together right here in the room. All right, looking like a failed breakout, and it would be normal for price to pull back. We'll see if they don't get recover that candle and get follow through. I'm going to call it a failed breakout. All right, that's my plan for this morning. I'll see you guys in about 45 minutes. All right.